Welcome to Poirot's Mysteries. I'm Nolan Drake, your guide through the labyrinth of secrets and shadows crafted by the ingenious Agatha Christie. Tonight, we embark on a chilling tale set in the foggy elegance of 1920s London at the grand yet foreboding Lyon Hall. So, settle in with a cup of tea, dim the lights, and let's unravel the mystery together. Tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Chapter 1. Introduction and Setup. The rain fell in relentless silver curtains over London, cloaking the city in a mist that seemed to murmur secrets with every gust. Hercule Poirot, his moustache impeccably waxed, and his patent leather shoes gleaming despite the damp, stepped from a hansom cab onto the crunching gravel drive of Lyon Hall. The estate loomed on the city's outskirts, a Georgian masterpiece of ivy-clad stone and tall, watchful windows that seemed to peer through the fog. Its grandeur was undeniable, yet an air of unease hung about it, as if the walls themselves held their breath. Poirot adjusted his overcoat, his sharp eyes scanning the scene. The invitation had come unexpectedly, penned in the precise hand of Sir Reginald Ashford, a retired diplomat and renowned scholar of ancient manuscripts. The letter had been cryptic, hinting at a matter requiring Poirot's unique discretion and unparalleled intellect. Sir Reginald had mentioned his priceless collection of medieval texts, a treasure trove that had drawn admiration and, it seemed, envy. "Threats have been made, Monsieur Poirot," the letter read. "Anonymous, venomous threats. I fear a shadow looms over Lyon Hall." As the cab rattled away, Poirot ascended the stone steps to the grand oak doors, which creaked open to reveal a cavernous hall. The air inside was heavy with the scent of polished mahogany, beeswax, and old books, warmed by a fire crackling in a massive hearth. Sir Reginald awaited him in the library, a vast room lined with towering bookshelves, their leather-bound volumes glowing softly in the firelight. The scholar was a wiry man in his 60s, with sharp blue eyes and a nervous energy that belied his distinguished bearing. "Monsieur Poirot," he said, his voice low, "I am grateful you've come. This house, my life's work, it is under siege." Poirot inclined his head, his grey cells already stirring. "Tell me, Sir Reginald, of these threats, and of those who share this magnificent hall with you." Over a glass of port, Sir Reginald introduced the household, each member a potential piece in the puzzle Poirot sensed forming. First was Lady Margaret Ashford, Sir Reginald's wife of 20 years. She entered the library with the grace of a swan, her auburn hair swept into an elegant chignon, her green eyes cool and distant. Her silk gown rustled softly, but her smile was tight, as if guarding a secret. Sir Reginald spoke of her fondly, yet Poirot noted a strain in his voice. She favoured selling the estate to fund a life of travel, a plan her husband fiercely opposed. Next came Dr. Evelyn Carver, a historian employed to catalogue Sir Reginald's manuscripts. She was a woman of striking intellect, her dark hair pulled back severely, her spectacles glinting as she spoke of the collection with reverence. "The manuscripts are a window to the past," she said, her voice intense. "One in particular, a 13th century illuminated text, could rewrite history." Poirot observed her hands, steady but clutching her notebook a fraction too tightly. Mr. Victor Langley, a financier and friend of the family, arrived with a disarming smile and a gambler's charm. His tailored suit and easy laughter suggested wealth, but his eyes darted nervously when Sir Reginald mentioned the manuscript's value. "A fortune in old paper," Langley quipped, though his jest felt forced. Poirot's moustache twitched. Here was a man accustomed to risk, perhaps too much so. Miss Clara Henshaw, Sir Reginald's niece, was a pale, mousy figure who seemed to shrink from attention. Her hands fidgeted with a lace handkerchief, and her soft voice barely rose above a whisper, as she spoke of her gratitude to her uncle for taking her in after her parents' death. Yet her eyes, when they met Poirot's, held a flicker of something, fear, or perhaps defiance. The household staff completed the cast. Mr. Thomas Reed, the butler, was a model of stoic efficiency, his grey hair and ramrod posture betraying a military past. His answers were clipped, his gaze steady, but Poirot sensed a mind as sharp as the silver he polished. Mrs. Beatrice Lyle, the housekeeper, was a contrast, voluble and prone to gossip, her round face flushed as she hinted at tensions in the house. "Things aren't as they seem, sir," she whispered when Sir Reginald was out of earshot. Dinner that evening was a study in contrasts. The dining room, with its crystal chandelier and damask tablecloth, gleamed under candlelight, yet the atmosphere was taut. Lady Margaret spoke of selling Lyon Hall, her words sparking a sharp retort from Sir Reginald. "This house is my legacy, Margaret. It will not be sold." Dr. Carver mentioned her work on the manuscripts, hinting at a discovery that could change everything, but clammed up when pressed. Langley laughed too loudly, his jests falling flat. Clara barely touched her food, her eyes darting to the windows as if expecting a spectre. Reed served with silent precision, while Mrs. Lyle hovered, her whispers about cursed books barely audible. Poirot observed it all, his mind cataloguing every glance, every pause. The little grey cells worked tirelessly, noting Lady Margaret's clenched jaw when Langley toasted her beauty, Dr. Carver's guarded glances at Sir Reginald, and Clara's trembling hands. Reed's impassive face betrayed nothing, yet Poirot sensed calculation. Mrs. Lyle's gossip hinted at Langley's debts and Lady Margaret's restlessness, but Poirot reserved judgment. Truth, he knew, often hid in the spaces between words. As the meal ended, a storm gathered outside, thunder rumbling like a warning. Poirot retired to his guest room, a cosy chamber overlooking the rain-swept gardens. He stood at the window, watching lightning illuminate the estate's turrets. The threats to Sir Reginald, the priceless manuscripts, the undercurrents of envy and ambition. It was a tableau ripe for tragedy. Poirot's fingers brushed his moustache. "The stage is set," he murmured, "and the players are restless. What secrets does Lyon Hall conceal?" As he prepared for bed, a piercing scream shattered the silence, echoing from the heart of the house. Poirot's eyes gleamed in the darkness. The curtain had risen. Chapter 2. The Crime Discovered. The scream tore through Lyon Hall like a jagged blade, piercing the stillness of the storm-lashed night. Hercule Poirot, roused from his guest room, adjusted his dressing gown and moved swiftly down the dimly lit corridor, his polished shoes clicking on the polished oak floor. The sound had come from the library, that cavernous heart of the estate where Sir Reginald Ashford's priceless manuscripts resided. As he descended the grand staircase, the air grew heavy with the scent of rain-soaked wood and a faint metallic tang that set Poirot's grey cells buzzing. The library doors stood ajar, firelight flickering within. Poirot entered to find a tableau of horror. Sir Reginald Ashford slumped over his mahogany desk, his lifeless eyes staring at nothing, a jewelled dagger buried in his chest. Blood had pooled on the desk, staining papers and seeping into the grain of the wood. The room was otherwise pristine, save for one glaring absence. The 13th-century illuminated manuscript, Sir Reginald's most prized possession, was gone from its display case. The glass case stood intact, its lock unforced, adding to the enigma. The household gathered, drawn by the scream. Lady Margaret Ashford stood rigid, her silk robe clutched tightly, her face pale but composed, though her green eyes flickered with something unreadable. Dr. Evelyn Carver, the historian, clutched her notebook, her spectacles glinting as she stared at the empty case. Mr. Victor Langley, the financier, paced near the hearth, his charm replaced by a nervous energy, his hands tugging at his cufflinks. Miss Clara Henshaw, Sir Reginald's niece, trembled in a corner. Her lace handkerchief pressed to her lips, her eyes wide with terror. Mr. Thomas Reed, the butler, stood like a sentinel, his face impassive, while Mrs. Beatrice Lyle, the housekeeper, hovered near the door, muttering about curses and ill omens. Poirot's sharp gaze swept the scene. The library door, he noted, was locked from the inside when the scream was heard, the heavy iron key still in the lock. The tall windows, framed by velvet curtains, were latched securely, their frames undisturbed despite the storm raging outside. No footprints marred the polished floor, and the thick Persian rug showed no signs of tampering. An impossible crime. A locked room, a murder, and a theft, with no apparent means of escape for the culprit. Inspector Japp arrived from Scotland Yard, his overcoat dripping as he surveyed the scene with a grimace. "Good Lord, Poirot, what a mess," he muttered. "Door locked, windows shut tight. How the devil did the killer get out? And where's that blasted manuscript?" Poirot, his moustache twitching, knelt by the desk. A spilled inkpot had left a black pool beside Sir Reginald's hand, and a torn fragment of paper lay nearby. Bearing a cryptic Latin phrase, Veritas in umbris, truth in shadows. A faint smudge of wax, barely noticeable, marked the edge of the desk, its texture distinct from the candles lighting the room. "Who found the body?" Poirot asked, his voice calm but commanding. Mrs. Lyle stepped forward, her hands wringing. "It was me, sir. I heard a noise, a thud like, and came to check. The door was locked, so I fetched Mr. Reed. We forced it open, and oh, it's dreadful." Reed nodded, his voice steady. "The key was inside, sir. We had to break the lock to enter." Poirot's eyes narrowed. The lock was indeed damaged, but the key's position intrigued him. Had it been placed to deceive? He questioned the household, each answer revealing as much as it concealed. Lady Margaret claimed she was in her bedroom, reading, when the scream woke her. "Reginald and we had our disagreements," she admitted, her voice cool, "but I was nowhere near the library." Dr. Carver said she was in her study, transcribing notes on the manuscripts, alone. "I heard nothing until Mrs. Lyle's cry," she insisted, though her fingers tightened on her notebook. Langley, still pacing, said he was in the billiard room, nursing a brandy. "I was alone, worse luck," he said with a forced laugh. Clara stammered that she was asleep, roused only by the commotion. Reed and Mrs. Lyle vouched for each other, claiming they were in the kitchen, preparing the morning's provisions. Poirot's mind catalogued their words, their postures, their hesitations. Lady Margaret's composure seemed a mask, her fingers brushing a pearl necklace as if for reassurance. Dr. Carver's intensity about the manuscript suggested more than academic zeal, perhaps obsession. Langley's nervous energy hinted at debts or secrets, his eyes avoiding the empty display case. Clara's trembling seemed genuine, yet her gaze darted toward the bookshelves, as if seeking something hidden. Reed's stoicism was impenetrable, but his military precision suggested a man capable of more than serving tea. Mrs. Lyle's gossip was a flood. Tales of Langley's gambling, Lady Margaret's restlessness, and whispers of a cursed manuscript. But Poirot sensed exaggeration. He examined the scene further. The dagger, its hilt encrusted with emeralds, was part of a decorative set from the Hall's collection, accessible to anyone in the household. The torn paper fragment intrigued him. Its edges suggested it was ripped deliberately, not in a struggle. The wax smudge, he noted, matched the texture of a candle in Dr. Carver's study, though she claimed to have been working by lamplight. The empty display case was a puzzle. Its lock was unforced, suggesting either a key or intimate knowledge of its mechanism. Sir Reginald's desk held a ledger, half open, with entries hinting at financial strain, particularly loans to Langley. Japp, growing impatient, speculated wildly. Perhaps a thief broke in, killed Sir Reginald, and slipped out before the door was locked. Or a servant's involved. Reed's got the strength for it. Poirot shook his head. Non, mon ami. The little grey cells protest. The door, the window, the key, they tell a story, but not one of simple theft. This is a crime of calculation, of intimacy with Lyon Hall's secrets. Poirot stepped to the bookshelves, his fingers tracing the spines. A faint draught caught his attention, emanating from a section of panelling. He pressed, and a click revealed a hidden recess. Not a passage, but a small compartment containing a single sheet of paper, covered in Sir Reginald's handwriting. It was a list of names, including those of the household, with cryptic notes. Margaret, debts mounting. Carver, too curious. Langley, untrustworthy. Poirot pocketed the paper, his eyes gleaming. The truth, he murmured, hides in the shadows, just as the Latin suggests. As the household dispersed, shaken and whispering, Poirot lingered in the library. The storm outside had softened to a drizzle, but the air within felt heavier, charged with suspicion. Each suspect had a motive. Lady Margaret's financial woes, Dr. Carver's obsession with the manuscript, Langley's debts, Clara's hidden fears, Reed's quiet strength, Mrs. Lyle's gossip-fueled grudges. The locked room, the missing manuscript, the cryptic clues, all pointed to a mind as meticulous as Poirot's own. He turned to Japp. "This is no ordinary crime, Inspector. The killer is among us, and they have woven a web of deception. But Hercule Poirot will unravel it." As he spoke, lightning flashed, illuminating the library's shadows, and Poirot's moustache twitched with resolve. Chapter 3. Investigation begins. The morning after Sir Reginald Ashford's murder dawned grey and heavy, the rain having retreated to a sullen mist that clung to Lyon Hall's ivy-clad walls. Hercule Poirot stood in the library, his small frame a quiet force amidst the lingering horror. The blood on the desk had dried to a dark stain, the jewelled dagger removed by Inspector Japp's men, but the empty manuscript case loomed like an accusation. The locked door, the latched window, the cryptic Latin phrase, veritas in umbris, truth in shadows, nagged at Poirot's mind. This was no simple crime, but a puzzle crafted with precision. Poirot began his investigation with the methodical calm that had unravelled countless mysteries. His eyes, sharp as a hawk's, scanned the library anew. The wax smudge on the desk, noted the previous night, intrigued him. It was not from the room's candelabra, which burned clean tallow, but a coarser blend, like that of a working candle. He recalled a similar candle in Dr. Evelyn Carver's study, its wick blackened from recent use. A clue, perhaps, or a distraction? Poirot reserved judgment, his moustache twitching as his grey cells churned. He summoned the household, their faces etched with sleeplessness and suspicion. Lady Margaret Ashford stood by the hearth, her auburn hair immaculate, but her hands betraying a faint tremor as they clasped her shawl. Dr. Carver, her spectacles glinting, clutched her notebook like a shield, her lips tight. Victor Langley leaned against a bookcase, his financier's charm dimmed by a nervous tick in his jaw. Clara Henshaw, Sir Reginald's niece, hovered near the door, her eyes darting as if seeking escape. Thomas Reed, the butler, stood ramrod straight, his military bearing unshaken, while Mrs. Beatrice Lyle, the housekeeper, fidgeted, her gossiping tongue stilled by the gravity of the moment. "Monsieur, Mesdames," Poirot began, his voice soft yet commanding. "A crime has been committed under this roof. An impossible crime, it seems, but Hercule Poirot does not believe in the impossible. The truth lies in the details, and I shall find it." He paced slowly, his polished shoes silent on the rug. "Let us begin with where each of you was at the time of Sir Reginald's death, approximately 11:47 last night." Lady Margaret spoke first, her voice cool but strained. "I was in my bedroom, reading. Reginald and we had our disagreements, but I retired early." Poirot noted her hesitation, her fingers brushing her pearl necklace, a nervous habit perhaps. Dr. Carver claimed she was in her study, transcribing notes on the manuscripts. "I was alone, engrossed in my work," she said, her eyes avoiding the empty display case. Langley admitted to being in the billiard room, nursing a brandy, alone, I'm afraid. His laugh was hollow, his eyes flicking to Lady Margaret. Clara stammered, "I was asleep, Monsieur Poirot. The scream woke me." Her hands twisted her handkerchief, her timidity almost too perfect. Reed and Mrs. Lyle vouched for each other, claiming they were in the kitchen, preparing for the morning. "We heard nothing until Mrs. Lyle's cry," Reed said, his voice clipped. Poirot's questions grew sharper. To Lady Margaret, "Your disagreements with Sir Reginald, were they about money?" She stiffened. "The estate is costly. I wished to sell, he refused, but that's no crime." To Dr. Carver, "This manuscript so valuable, did you uncover its secrets?" She hesitated. "It holds historical significance. A map, perhaps, to a lost artifact. I was studying it." Langley, pressed about his debts, admitted borrowing from Sir Reginald. "A temporary embarrassment," he said, his smile strained. Clara, asked why she seemed so fearful, murmured, "This house, it's oppressive." Reed and Mrs. Lyle offered little, their alibis too neat, their loyalty to the family unyielding. Leaving the household, Poirot returned to the library. The torn paper fragment with its Latin phrase, "Veritas in umbris," suggested intent, not accident. He examined the desk, finding a faint scratch near the inkpot, as if something heavy had been dragged. The display case's lock, unforced, implied a key or expertise. Poirot's fingers traced the bookshelves, recalling the hidden compartment from the previous night. The list he'd found, Sir Reginald's notes on the household, hinted at distrust. Margaret, debts mounting. Carver, too curious. Langley, untrustworthy. But there was more to uncover. A faint draught caught his attention, not from the compartment, but from behind another bookcase. He pressed a panel, and with a soft groan, it swung inward, revealing a narrow passage. Dust coated the floor, but no footprints marked it, an oddity given the passage's age. Cobwebs hung undisturbed, yet a faint scuff suggested recent use. At the passage's end, a spiral stair led to a dusty attic, where Poirot found a broken pocket watch. Its hands stopped at 11:47 p.m., the time of the murder. The watch was engraved with VL, Victor Langley's initials, a clue, or another deception? Poirot descended, his mind racing. The passage could explain the locked room, but the absence of footprints puzzled him. He examined the library windows again, their latches secure, the sills damp but undisturbed. The dagger, Japp confirmed, was from a set in the hall's armory, accessible to all. Poirot's eyes lingered on the wax smudge. He visited Dr. Carver's study, finding the candle, its wax an exact match. "You worked by candlelight, madame?" he asked. She flushed. "The lamp flickered. I used a candle briefly." Her explanation was plausible, but Poirot's grey cells hummed with doubt. He interviewed Mrs. Lyle alone, her gossip flowing freely. "Mr. Langley's in debt up to his eyes, sir, and Lady Margaret, she's been writing letters to someone late at night. I've seen her burn them." Reed, questioned separately, admitted to a military past, but denied entering the library. "My duty is to serve, not to snoop," he said, his eyes unreadable. Clara, pressed further, confessed to sneaking into the library days before, to read the manuscript. It felt important. Her fear seemed genuine, but her story incomplete. Poirot found a financial ledger in Sir Reginald's desk, detailing loans to Langley, tens of thousands unpaid. A letter, half hidden, mentioned a rival scholar's envy, possibly Dr. Carver's mentor, but it was vague. The Latin phrase nagged at him, truth in shadows. Was it a message from the killer, or Sir Reginald's own warning? Poirot's mind turned to the manuscript's value, not just monetary, but historical, as Dr. Carver had hinted. A map to a lost artifact could tempt many. Japp, frustrated, speculated about an outside thief, but Poirot dismissed it. "The killer knew this house, mon ami. The passage, the dagger, the manuscript, they point to someone within." He stood by the library's hearth, the fire casting shadows that danced like the truth he sought. Each suspect had a motive. Lady Margaret's debts, Dr. Carver's obsession, Langley's financial ruin, Clara's hidden fears, Reed's quiet strength, Mrs. Lyle's grudges. The passage and watch were clues, but the wax and Latin phrase suggested a deeper game. The impossible, Poirot murmured, is merely the improbable in disguise. The grey cells will find the truth. As he left the library, the mist outside thickened, mirroring the mystery within Lyon Hall. Chapter 4. Clues and Red Herrings. The afternoon sun struggled through the persistent mist shrouding Lyon Hall, casting a pallid light over the estate's sodden gardens. Hercule Poirot, undeterred by the damp, returned to the library with renewed vigour, his grey cells humming like a well-oiled mechanism. The crime scene had been preserved under Inspector Japp's reluctant orders, the blood-stained desk a stark reminder of Sir Reginald Ashford's untimely end, the locked door, the missing manuscript, the cryptic veritas in umbris. These threads wove a tapestry of deception, and Poirot was determined to pull them apart. He began with the hidden passage behind the bookcase, its narrow confines cloaked in dust and cobwebs. Kneeling, Poirot examined the floor minutely. Amid the undisturbed grime, a single smudged footprint caught his eye. Large, suggesting a man's shoe, the tread worn but distinctive. He measured it carefully, size 10, with a unique heel pattern. "Ah," he murmured, "a visitor in the night, but careful, too careful perhaps." Tracing the passage upward, he found faint wax drippings on the stone walls, matching the smudge on the desk and the candle from Dr. Evelyn Carver's study. The spiral stair to the attic yielded no further secrets, save the broken pocket watch engraved VL, Victor Langley's, stopped at the fatal hour. Poirot emerged, his mind alight, and summoned Japp. "Mon ami, this passage is key, but the footprint, it is a plant, I think. Too isolated, too convenient." Jap grunted. You and your fancy. Meanwhile, we've got a lead. A vagrant spotted near the estate last night, nicking a silver candlestick from the garden shed. He's in custody. Poirot's moustache twitched dismissively. A red herring, Inspector. The candlestick is unrelated. Petty theft, not the work of a manuscript thief or locked room killer. The household was reconvened in the drawing room, a space of faded velvet settees and portraits of stern Ashford's past. Lady Margaret sat rigidly, her green eyes defiant. Dr. Carver polished her spectacles nervously. Langley lounged with feigned nonchalance. Clara twisted her handkerchief. Reed stood sentinel-like. Mrs. Lyle bustled with tea trays, her eyes darting. Poirot paced deliberately, his voice a velvet blade. Mes amis, new clues emerge. A footprint in the passage, man-sized. Wax traces linking to Madame Carver's candle. And this watch, yours, Monsieur Langley? He held it aloft. Langley paled. Stolen! Days ago from my room. Someone's framing me. His tic returned, jaw clenching. Poirot turned to Clara. And your handkerchief, mademoiselle, found near the library door, monogrammed, unmistakable. Clara gasped, tears welling. I dropped it earlier, reading in the hall, I swear. Mrs. Lyle, emboldened, interjected. I saw Mr. Langley near the library at midnight skulking, and whispers of Lady Margaret burning letters, love letters, mark my words. Her story shifted under Poirot's gaze. First midnight, then half past. Well, near enough, she muttered. Lady Margaret flushed. Gossip, nothing more. Beatrice, you overstep. Poirot delved deeper, searching Sir Reginald's desk with permission. A coded letter surfaced, its cipher simple. Anagrammed names, rival scholar envies prize. Carver's shadow. Dr. Carver bristled. Absurd! My mentor died years ago, rival or not. Yet her notebook, glimpsed earlier, bore similar Latin marginalia. The financial ledger revealed more. Langley's debts mounted to $50,000, with Sir Reginald's furious annotations. Final warning. Lady Margaret's jewellery account showed unexplained withdrawals. A commotion interrupted. Jap burst in, vagrant in tow, a ragged man named Alfie Grimes, clutching the stolen candlestick. Caught red-handed, Poirot. He admits prowling, could have slipped in. Grimes whined. Just the shiny bit, governor. Never touched no library. Poirot examined his boots. Mismatched. Size 8. No tread match. No, Inspector. Dismiss him. Our killer wears finer shoes. Jap grumbled but complied. The vagrant a classic red herring, distracting but irrelevant. Poirot pressed Reed privately in the butler's pantry. Your shoes, monsieur. Size 10, that heel pattern. Reed's eyes hardened. Polished daily, sir. I was in the kitchen. Ask Mrs. Lyle. Yet a faint wax fleck marred one sole, hastily scrubbed. A spill, Reed claimed. Poirot nodded, unconvinced. With Clara, alone in the conservatory amid wilting orchids, he coaxed more. The manuscript frightens you, n'est-ce pas? Why? She whispered. Uncle said it held a family curse. A map to treasure, but cursed. My mother died seeking it. Her tears seemed real, but Poirot noted her steady gaze. A performer? Langley confronted next, in the billiard room. All right, Poirot. The ship debts, yes, I borrowed. Sir Reginald was helping, like a brother, but murder, madness. A crumpled billiard score sheet hid a note. Meet M to midnight, urgent. M for Margaret? Poirot pocketed it silently. Dr. Carver, in her study, defended fiercely. The wax? Coincidence. The manuscript's map leads to the Grail Chalice, worth empires. Sir Reginald trusted me. Her passion rang true, yet a key to the display case dangled from her chatelaine. Oversight or arrogance? Lady Margaret, last in her boudoir, scented with lavender. Victor, a friend, nothing scandalous. But a burned letter fragment in the grate bore V, and forever yours. Her composure cracked. Reginald was impossible, obsessed with his books, blind to our ruin. Motive crystallized, inheritance, freedom, passion. Poirot retreated to the library as dusk fell, piecing clues. The footprint, Reed's or Langley's, wax, Carver's, handkerchief, Clara's distraction. Vagrant, false lead. Coded letter, red herring on rivals. Watch, planted, Latin phrase, truth in shadows. The passage, the attic, or metaphorical, hiding among suspects. He found one more. In the passage, a torn glove fibre, matching Mrs. Lyle's mending basket. She overlooked. Her shifting tales suggested complicity. Japp phoned. No forced entry, no manuscript sightings. It's one of them, Poirot. Oui, Poirot replied. But which? The red herring swarm, yet the true fish slips through. As night deepened, a floorboard creaked outside. Poirot froze. Someone listening? The game intensified, clues multiplying like shadows in candlelight. Chapter 5. Complications and twists. The second day at Lyon Hall brought a chill that seeped beyond the mist-soaked windows, as if the estate itself mourned Sir Reginald Ashford's death. Hercule Poirot stood in the library, the blood-stained desk now cleared by Inspector Japp's men, but the absence of the 13th-century manuscript loomed like a spectre. The hidden passage, the wax smudge, the broken watch engraved VL, and the cryptic veritas in umbris, truth in shadows, swirled in Poirot's mind. Yet a new twist emerged, threatening to unravel his careful deductions. As Poirot sipped his morning tisane, Japp burst into the drawing-room, his face flushed. "Poirot! You won't believe this! The manuscript's back!" He gestured toward the library, where astonishingly the illuminated text sat in its display case, untouched, as if it had never vanished. The lock was intact, the glass unmarred. But another loss struck. A rare ruby, part of Sir Reginald's private collection, was missing from a locked safe in his study. "First a murder, then a theft, now this swap. What's the game?" Japp demanded. Poirot's grey cells sparked. "The manuscript's return is no accident, mon ami. It is a move in the killer's chess game. To confuse, to distract." He examined the case. No scratches, no forced entry. The Shishba ruby's disappearance suggested a deeper motive. Greed, desperation, or a feint to mask the murder's purpose. The crimes were linked, he was certain, bound by the locked room's enigma. He gathered the household, their faces a gallery of unease. Lady Margaret Ashford stood by the window, her composure fraying, her fingers twisting a silk scarf. Dr. Evelyn Carver clutched her notebook, her eyes darting to the manuscript. Victor Langley, his financier's charm faltering, lit a cigarette with trembling hands. Clara Henshaw, pale and shrinking, clutched her handkerchief. Thomas Reed, the butler, maintained his military poise, while Mrs. Beatrice Lyle whispered of cursed treasures to anyone who'd listen. "Monsieur, Mesdames," Poirot began, his voice deliberate, "a new crime complicates our puzzle. The manuscript returns, yet a ruby vanishes. Someone plays a dangerous game. Let us revisit your movements." He pressed harder, seeking cracks. Lady Margaret insisted she'd slept through the night, but her scarf bore a faint wax stain, unnoticed by her. Dr. Carver admitted to visiting the library at dawn, to check my notes, but her key to the display case glinted accusingly. Langley, cornered about his debts, snapped, "I'm no thief. Sir Reginald was my friend." Clara confessed to sneaking into the library days prior, to read the manuscript. It spoke of a curse, a map to doom. Reed and Mrs. Lyle reiterated their kitchen alibi, but Poirot noted Mrs. Lyle's glove, mended with thread matching the passage's fibre. The hidden passage beckoned again. Poirot returned, finding fresh wax drippings, recent from last night. The footprint size 10 matched Reed's shoes, yet he claimed they were in his quarters. "Check them, sir," Reed said, unflinching. Poirot did, finding a faint wax fleck on one sole, hastily cleaned. A plant or carelessness? In the attic, a scrap of fabric caught on a nail matched Clara's handkerchief, suggesting she'd lied about her visits. The watch, Langley's, nagged. Stolen, he claimed. But when? A confrontation in the billiard room with Langley yielded fire. "All right, Poirot. The note, yes. I was to meet Margaret, but not for murder. We discussed finances." His eyes betrayed more love, perhaps. Poirot found the note's ink matched Lady Margaret's private stationery. Dr. Carver, in her study, revealed a bombshell. The manuscript's map points to a Templar artifact, a chalice, worth millions. Sir Reginald knew, but swore me to secrecy. Her passion was genuine, but her key's presence screamed opportunity. Clara, cornered in the conservatory, broke. "I lied, monsieur. I entered the passage days ago, seeking the manuscript's secret. My mother died chasing that chalice. Uncle warned it was cursed." Her tears flowed, but her steady gaze hinted at calculation. Poirot found a burned letter in Lady Margaret's grate, its fragments reading, "V. Must act. Soon. Ours obsession ruins us." The V was clear. Victor Langley. An affair, fueling murder. A new clue emerged, a tiny brass key, hidden in a library book, fitting the ruby's safe. Whose? Poirot tested it. Only Reed had access to the study's cleaning schedule. Yet Mrs. Lyle's gossip shifted. "I saw Clara near the study late." Clara denied it, trembling. Poirot's mind raced. The ruby's theft was a distraction, the manuscript's return a taunt. The killer was among them, orchestrating chaos. He confronted Reed in the pantry. "Your shoes, monsieur. The wax, the footprint. You were in the passage." Reed's jaw tightened. "I checked the house nightly. Sir Reginald's orders. I saw nothing." His alibi held, but his eyes flickered. Mrs. Lyle, questioned again, faltered. "Clara, or was it Dr. Carver? Someone was near the library." Her stories unravelled, her mended glove a silent accusation. Poirot returned to the library, the Latin phrase echoing veritas in umbris. He found a hidden ledger page, tucked in a book, Sir Reginald's notes on the chalice, warning of betrayal. "Trust none," it read. The manuscript's map, now back, showed faint pencil marks. Dr. Carver's, a trap by Sir Reginald testing loyalty. A twist. Japp reported a witness, a gardener who saw a figure in a cloak near the library window. But the latched panes contradicted this. Poirot examined the window frame. A faint scratch suggested tampering, yet the latch held firm. A mechanical trick. The passage wax and ruby pointed to a killer intimate with Lyon Hall's secrets, but the cloak suggested an outsider, or a disguise. As night fell, Poirot overheard a hushed argument, Lady Margaret and Langley, behind the conservatory. "You promised, Victor. Freedom," she hissed. "I didn't kill him," Langley retorted. Poirot's moustache twitched. Complicity, but whose hand struck? The web tightened, motives overlapping. Lady Margaret's debts and affair. Dr. Carver's ambition, Langley's ruin, Clara's fear, Reed's stoicism, Mrs. Lyle's whispers. He stood by the library's hearth, shadows dancing. "The killer weaves a clever tapestry," he murmured, "but the threads will snap." A creak outside, someone watching. The game grew perilous, clues and lies entwining like the mist outside. Chapter 6. The Revelation. The third evening at Lyon Hall draped the estate in a hush. as if the very walls anticipated the unravelling of their secrets. Hercule Poirot stood in the library, the fire casting long shadows across the polished floor, the returned manuscript gleaming in its case like a taunt. The jewelled dagger, the wax smudge, the hidden passage, the broken watch, the stolen ruby, and the cryptic veritas in umbris, truth in shadows, had woven a puzzle that tested even Poirot's formidable intellect. But now his grey cells had aligned, and the truth lay bare. He summoned the household to the library, their faces a gallery of dread and defiance. Lady Margaret Ashford stood by the hearth, her green eyes hard, her silk scarf betraying a faint tremble. Dr. Evelyn Carver clutched her notebook, her spectacles glinting with nervous intensity. Victor Langley leaned against a bookcase, his financier's charm replaced by a pallor that no cigarette could mask. Clara Henshaw hovered near the door, her handkerchief twisted into knots. Thomas Reed, the butler, stood rigid, his military bearing unshaken, while Mrs. Beatrice Lyle fidgeted, her gossip silenced by the gravity of the moment. "Monsieur, Mesdames," Poirot began, his voice soft yet piercing, "the little grey cells have worked tirelessly, and the truth of Sir Reginald's murder emerges from the shadows. This locked room crime, this theft and return of the manuscript, this ruby's disappearance, they are not separate but one tapestry, woven by a mind both cunning and desperate. Let us unravel it." He paced deliberately, his polished shoes silent on the rug. First, the scene. Sir Reginald, stabbed in a locked library, the key inside, the window latched, the manuscript, gone, then returned, a ruby, stolen from a locked safe. Clues abound, a wax smudge, a footprint, a torn page with veritas in umbris, a broken watch, a hidden passage, a brass key, burned letters. Each points to you all, yet only one is the killer. Poirot turned to the passage, its entrance concealed behind the bookcase. This passage explains the locked room. The killer entered, stabbed Sir Reginald, and exited, locking the door from within to create an impossible crime. But how? The passage's dust bore no footprints, save one, size 10 matching Monsieur Reed's shoes. Reed stiffened, but Poirot raised a hand. Yet this footprint was too perfect, planted to mislead. The wax drippings, matching Madame Carver's candle, suggested her presence. Dr. Carver gasped, clutching her notebook, but the wax was also a plant, taken from her study to implicate her. He held up the broken watch, engraved VL. "Monsieur Langley, you claimed this stolen, true, but not days ago, hours before the murder." It was placed in the attic to confuse the timeline. Langley's cigarette trembled. "The handkerchief, Mademoiselle Clara, found near the library, yours, dropped not by accident but to distract, as was your tale of a cursed manuscript." Clara's eyes widened, tears brimming. Poirot's gaze swept to Lady Margaret. "And you, Madame, your debts, your letters to Victor, burned to hide an affair. The ruby's theft points to greed, yes?" She paled, her scarf slipping. "Finally, Madame Lyle, your shifting tails and mended glove. Complicity, perhaps. And Monsieur Reed, your wax-flecked shoe suggests you walked the passage." Mrs. Lyle flushed. Reed remained stone-faced. "But let us reconstruct," Poirot continued, his voice rising. "Sir Reginald was no fool. His manuscript with its map to a Templar chalice was a trap, a fake, planted to test loyalty. He suspected betrayal, as his hidden notes revealed. Margaret, debts. Carver, curious. Langley, untrustworthy. The killer knew this, sought the ruby instead, and used the manuscript's theft as a feint. He paused, eyes gleaming. The killer is Lady Margaret Ashford. A collective gasp filled the room. Lady Margaret's composure shattered, her hands clutching the hearth. "Absurd!" she cried. Poirot raised a finger, "No, madame. The evidence condemns you. Your debts, 60,000 as the ledger shows, drove you to desperation. Your affair with Monsieur Langley, confirmed by burned letters, gave you a partner. You planned to kill Sir Reginald, steal the ruby, and frame Dr. Carver." He detailed the crime. "You used the hidden passage, known to you from years in this house. You entered the library, stabbed Sir Reginald with the dagger from the armory, and exited, locking the door with a duplicate key, found in your boudoir, hidden in a jewellery box. The wax smudge was deliberate, taken from Dr. Carver's candle. The footprint, Reed's shoe, stolen and planted. The watch, Langley's, taken by you to muddle the timeline. The manuscript's theft was a ruse. You returned it to shift suspicion, but the ruby, your true prize, was hidden in your room. Poirot produced the brass key to the safe. This, found in a library book, you overlooked. It opened the safe, where the ruby lay until you took it. The Latin phrase, veritas in umbris, was Sir Reginald's warning, copied from his notes. You tore the page to distract. Clara's handkerchief, Langley's watch, Mrs. Lyle's gossip, all exploited by you to cloud the truth." Lady Margaret's eyes blazed. "You have no proof." Poirot smiled faintly. "The ruby, madame, was found this morning in your locked trunk wrapped in your scarf, stained with wax. Your handwriting matches the burned letters. Monsieur Langley, complicit in your plans, provided the watch, but lacked the nerve for murder." Langley slumped, muttering, "I didn't know she'd kill him." Dr. Carver exhaled, vindicated. Clara sobbed, relieved. Reed's stoic mask softened. Mrs. Lyle whispered, "I knew something was amiss." Japp, stunned, signalled his men, "Lady Margaret, you're under arrest." She collapsed, weeping, as handcuffs clicked. "I had to be free," she murmured. "Reginald's obsession was our ruin." Poirot turned to the group. "The truth, mes amis, was indeed in the shadows of greed, of betrayal. Sir Reginald's trap exposed it, and Hercule Poirot's grey cells brought it to light." The library fell silent. The fire's crackle the only sound as the weight of justice settled. As Japp led Lady Margaret away, Poirot lingered, gazing at the manuscript. "A clever game," he murmured, "but the human heart is no match for reason." The shadows receded, and Lyon Hall seemed to breathe again. Chapter 7. Justice Served. The dawn of the fourth day broke over Lyon Hall with a tentative clarity, the mist parting to reveal a sky bruised with clouds. The grand estate, once heavy with secrets, seemed to exhale, its ivy-clad walls no longer whispering of treachery. Hercule Poirot stood in the drawing-room, his small frame a quiet pillar of resolve, his moustache impeccably waxed despite the early hour. The household, diminished by Lady Margaret's arrest, gathered one final time, their faces a mix of relief, guilt, and lingering unease. The air carried the faint scent of beeswax and wood smoke, a reminder of the library where Sir Reginald Ashford met his end. Inspector Japp, his overcoat rumpled from a sleepless night, stood by the hearth, his men stationed discreetly at the door. Dr. Evelyn Carver sat stiffly, her notebook finely set aside, her spectacles catching the morning light. Victor Langley slouched in an armchair, his financier's charm extinguished, his eyes hollow. Clara Henshaw, Sir Reginald's niece, perched on a settee, her handkerchief now still, her face pale but calm. Thomas Reed, the butler, stood with military precision, his stoic mask softened by a flicker of gratitude. Mrs. Beatrice Lyle, the housekeeper, hovered near the tea-tray, her gossip quelled, her hands steady for the first time in days. Poirot cleared his throat, his voice warm yet authoritative, carrying the weight of resolution. "Mes amis, the tragedy of Lyon Hall is concluded. The little grey cells have unravelled the web of deception, and justice, she is served. But let us retrace, for clarity, the path to this moment." He paced slowly, his polished shoes silent on the Aubusson rug, his hands clasped behind his back. Sir Reginald Ashford, a man of intellect and suspicion, was murdered in a locked library, his prized manuscript stolen, a ruby taken from his safe. The clues, a wax smudge, a footprint, a broken watch, a torn page with Veritas in umbris, a hidden passage, pointed to many, yet led to one, Lady Margaret Ashford. The room stirred, eyes darting, but Poirot's gaze held them fast. He recounted the crime with meticulous detail. Lady Margaret, driven by debts, 60,000 as the ledger revealed, and an affair with Monsieur Langley, sought freedom from her husband's obsession with his manuscripts. She planned a murder disguised as an impossible crime. Using the hidden passage, known to her from years in this house, she entered the library at 11:47 p.m., stabbed Sir Reginald with a jewelled dagger from the armoury, and exited, locking the door with a duplicate key. This key, found in her boudoir, was her first mistake. Poirot held up the brass key to the ruby's safe, glinting in the light. The ruby, her true target, was taken to fund her escape with Langley. The manuscript's theft was a feint. She returned it to shift suspicion, believing it worthless. But Sir Reginald had crafted a trap. The manuscript's map to a Templar chalice was a forgery designed to expose disloyalty. His notes, Margaret, debts, Langley, untrustworthy, revealed his distrust. He turned to the clues. The wax smudge, stolen from Madame Carver's candle, was planted to implicate her. The footprint from Monsieur Reed's shoe was taken and placed in the passage. The watch, Monsieur Langley's, was used to muddle the timeline, stolen by Lady Margaret, not days but hours before. The torn page, Veritas in umbris, was her attempt to distract, torn from Sir Reginald's notes. Mademoiselle Clara's handkerchief, Madame Lyle's glove fibre, these were exploited to cloud the truth. Dr. Carver exhaled, her shoulders relaxing. "I knew the manuscript was a trap," she said softly. "Sir Reginald confided in me. Its map was false, a test." Clara, her voice steady, added, "Uncle warned me of betrayal, but I never suspected Margaret." Langley, head bowed, muttered, "I loved her, but I didn't know she'd kill. I only helped with the watch." Reed nodded solemnly. "Sir Reginald was a good man. I failed to protect him." Mrs. Lyle, tearful, said, "I saw her shadows, but never the whole truth." Poirot's eyes softened. "Each of you was touched by this crime, but only one struck the blow. Lady Margaret's greed and desperation wove this tragedy." He recounted her confession, extracted in the library as Japp's men closed in. "Reginald's obsession was our ruin," she had wept. "I had to be free for Victor, for myself." The ruby, found in her locked trunk, wrapped in her wax-stained scarf, sealed her fate. Langley, complicit in planning but not the act, faced charges as an accessory. Japp stepped forward, his gruff voice tempered by respect. "Poirot, you've done it again. Lady Margaret's in custody, and Langley's coming with us. The ruby's secured, the manuscript safe." He shook his head. "That locked room, I'd have sworn it was impossible." Poirot smiled faintly. "The impossible, mon ami, is merely a matter of perspective. The passage, the key, the heart, they betrayed her." The household dispersed, their relief palpable. Dr. Carver planned to publish Sir Reginald's findings, honouring his legacy. Clara, freed from fear, spoke of leaving Lyon Hall to start anew. Reed and Mrs. Lyle resumed their duties, the estate's rhythm returning. Langley, escorted by Japp's men, cast a final glance at the library, his dreams of escape shattered. Poirot lingered by the window, watching the clouds part to reveal a sliver of sun. The mist had lifted, and Lyon Hall stood bathed in light, its secrets laid bare. He adjusted his overcoat, preparing to depart. "The human heart," he murmured, "is the greatest puzzle of all, but reason she prevails." He stepped into the waiting hansom cab, the gravel crunching underfoot, and glanced back at the estate. The shadows were gone, but the memory of Veritas in Umbris lingered, a reminder that truth, however hidden, could not escape Hercule Poirot. As the cab rolled toward London, Poirot's thoughts turned to the next mystery, his grey cells ever restless. Justice had been served, but the world he knew was never short of secrets. Chapter 8. Echoes in the Shadows. The sun rose over Lyon Hall on the 5th day, its golden rays piercing the last wisps of mist that had cloaked the estate in suspicion. The air felt lighter. The oppressive weight of murder and betrayal lifted by Hercule Poirot's revelation of Lady Margaret Ashford's guilt. Yet, as Poirot prepared to depart, a faint unease lingered in his grey cells. A whisper that the tapestry of Lyon Hall's mystery might have one final thread to unravel. He stood in the grand hall, his overcoat draped over his arm, his moustache impeccably waxed. The household, though diminished, gathered to bid him farewell. Dr. Evelyn Carver, her spectacles polished, spoke of cataloguing Sir Reginald's manuscripts for publication, her voice steady with purpose. Clara Henshaw, Sir Reginald's niece, clutched a small suitcase, her pale face resolute as she planned to leave for a new life. Thomas Reed, the butler, stood with military precision, his stoic demeanour softened by gratitude. Mrs. Beatrice Lyle, the housekeeper, bustled with tea trays, her gossip replaced by quiet efficiency. Inspector Japp, lingering by the door, tipped his hat. "You've outdone yourself, Poirot. The case is closed. Lady Margaret's in the dock. Langley's confessing. Lyon Hall's at peace." Poirot inclined his head, but his eyes gleamed with a flicker of doubt. "Peace, mon ami? Perhaps. Yet the little grey cells, they murmur of an echo, a detail overlooked." As he spoke, a sharp cry rang from the library, startling the group. Mrs. Lyle dropped a teacup, its shatter echoing like a gunshot. "Not again!" she gasped. Poirot, his instincts aflame, led the charge to the source. In the library, they found the display case open, the 13th century manuscript untouched, but flanked by a new anomaly. A small, leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed, lying on Sir Reginald's desk. The journal was not there during the investigation, Poirot was certain. Its cover bore a faint monogram, EA, and a single word, in Latin, umbras, shadows. The air grew heavy, the scent of old paper mingling with the lingering trace of blood, though the desk had been scrubbed clean. Poirot opened the journal, his fingers delicate. Inside, Sir Reginald's precise handwriting detailed a chilling discovery. The chalice map is false, a trap for the greedy. But another secret lies in Lyon Hall, a codex hidden in the walls worth more than gold. Trust no one, not even those closest. The final entry, dated the night of his death, read, "EA knows too much. Danger!" Poirot's grey cells sparked. EA, Evelyn Carver, or another, her ith, turned to the household, their faces pale. Mes amis, a new mystery emerges. This journal, hidden until now, suggests Sir Reginald feared a second betrayal. Who placed it here, and why? Dr. Carver's hand trembled as she adjusted her spectacles. "I catalogued every book. Nothing like this appeared." Clara clutched her suitcase, eyes wide. Reed's jaw tightened, while Mrs. Lyle whispered, "Another curse!" Japp groaned. "Poirot, don't tell me we've missed something." Poirot examined the case. No forced entry, the lock intact. The journal's placement suggested intimate knowledge of the library, yet none admitted to seeing it. He questioned Dr. Carver sharply. "Madame, E.A., your initials. Did Sir Reginald suspect you?" She bristled. "Nonsense! He trusted me with the manuscripts. That journal, it's a forgery." Her vehemence rang hollow. Her notebook clutched tightly. Clara, trembling, spoke. "Uncle mentioned a codex once, a family legend, older than the manuscript. I thought it a myth." Reed pressed, admitted to nightly patrols, but saw no journal. Mrs. Lyle, flustered, said, "I cleaned that desk yesterday. Nothing there." Poirot's eyes narrowed. The journal's pages held faint pencil marks, mirroring those on the manuscript's map. Dr. Carver's hand, or another plant? He returned to the hidden passage, its dust now disturbed by their earlier searches. A faint glint caught his eye. A silver cufflink, engraved T.R., Thomas Reed's. "Monsieur Reed, you claimed no recent visits here," Poirot said, holding it aloft. Reed's stoic mask faltered. "Lost months ago, sir. Someone's playing tricks." The cufflink's shine suggested recent handling, not months of dust. Poirot's mind raced. The journal was a red herring, or a warning. Sir Reginald's note, "E.A. knows too much," pointed to Dr. Carver, but her expertise made her a convenient scapegoat. The codex, if real, raised the stakes, a secret worth killing for, hidden beyond the chalice's ruse. He searched the library walls, tapping panels. A hollow thud revealed a concealed compartment, smaller than the passage's entrance. Inside lay a slim codex, its vellum pages etched with ancient script, a map to a crypt beneath Lyon Hall. The household gasped as Poirot displayed it. "This," he said, "is what Sir Reginald died to protect, and what another sought to claim." He turned to Dr. Carver. "You knew of this, madame. Your notes mimic its script." She paled. "I suspected its existence. Sir Reginald hinted at it, but I never saw it." Her denial was fierce, but her eyes betrayed fear. A new twist. Clara stepped forward, voice steady. "I placed the journal. Uncle gave it to me, told me to hide it if danger came. I was afraid. After his death, I thought it would expose the killer." Her confession stunned Poirot. "Why now, mademoiselle?" she whispered. "I heard footsteps last night. Someone searching the library. I couldn't stay silent." Poirot's grey cells aligned. The codex was the true prize, the manuscript a decoy. Lady Margaret's crime was greed-driven, but someone else sought the codex, using her arrest to act. The cufflink implicated Reed, but its placement was too convenient. Dr. Carver's knowledge made her a target, not a culprit. The footsteps Clara heard pointed to a lingering conspirator. He gathered them closer. The codex's discovery clears Lady Margaret's accomplices, but reveals another shadow. "Monsieur Reed, your cufflink dropped last night." Reed shook his head. "Impossible." Poirot smiled faintly. "Then, Mrs. Lyle, your cleaning, did you see another in the library?" She flushed. "I thought it was Clara tidying." Clara shook her head. Poirot's revelation struck. The codex was sought by an outsider, alerted by Sir Reginald's notes. But the journal's placement, Clara's act, foiled them. The footsteps were a thief, not of our household, using the passage's secret. Japp searched the grounds. Japp's men found a local antiquarian, hired by Langley's Whispers, lurking in the woods, tools in hand. He confessed to seeking the codex, unaware of the murder. The household exhaled. Dr. Carver vowed to study the codex ethically, Clara to preserve her uncle's legacy, Reed and Mrs. Lyle to serve loyally. Poirot, satisfied, boarded his cab. "The shadows are dispelled," he murmured, "but the heart of Lyon Hall beats on." Chapter 9. The final veil. The 6th day at Lyon Hall dawned with a deceptive calm. The estate's ivy-clad walls bathed in a soft glow as the last traces of mist dissolved. Hercule Poirot, his overcoat neatly folded over his arm, stood in the grand hall, preparing to depart for London. The resolution of Sir Reginald Ashford's murder, the recovery of the ruby, the return of the manuscript, and the discovery of the ancient codex had restored a fragile peace. Yet, as Poirot adjusted his impeccable moustache, a faint prickle of unease stirred his grey cells. The codex, with its cryptic map to a crypt beneath the estate, hinted at secrets deeper than even Sir Reginald's trap had revealed. The household gathered, their faces etched with relief but shadowed by lingering doubts. Dr. Evelyn Carver, her spectacles gleaming, held the codex reverently, her plans to study it for scholarly publication now firm. Clara Henshaw, suitcase in hand, stood poised to leave Lyon Hall, her resolve to forge a new path evident in her steady gaze. Thomas Reed, the butler, maintained his military bearing, his gratitude to Poirot unspoken but clear. Mrs. Beatrice Lyle, the housekeeper, arranged a farewell tea, her gossip subdued by the weight of recent events. Inspector Japp, ever practical, clapped Poirot on the shoulder. "You've outdone yourself, old chap. The antiquarian's in custody, the codex safe. Time for a pint, eh?" Poirot's smile was polite, but distant. "Non, mon ami. The little grey cells, they whisper of one final shadow, a detail unaccounted for." As he spoke, a sharp clatter echoed from the upper floors, followed by a muffled cry. The household froze, eyes wide. Mrs. Lyle gasped, "Not another calamity!" Poirot, his instincts aflame, led the way upstairs, his small frame moving with purposeful grace. The sound came from Sir Reginald's private study, a room overlooked during the initial investigation due to its locked door and peripheral role. The door now stood ajar, its lock scratched as if forced. Inside, a small safe, distinct from the rubies, lay open, its contents scattered. A bundle of letters, a silver locket, and a single page of vellum, its script matching the codex's ancient style. The locket, engraved EA, contained a faded photograph of a young woman resembling Dr. Carver. The vellum bore a Latin phrase, Ultima Veritas, the final truth. Poirot's eyes gleamed. "A new piece of the puzzle, mes amis. This safe, this locket, who opened it, and why now?" Dr. Carver paled, her hand trembling as she touched the locket. "That's my mother's. Sir Reginald kept it, but I never knew why." Clara, clutching her suitcase, whispered, "Uncle spoke of a family debt, something tied to the crypt." Reed's jaw tightened, while Mrs. Lyle muttered, "I cleaned that study yesterday, locked tight." Japp, exasperated, threw up his hands. "Poirot, you're seeing ghosts. The case is closed." Poirot knelt by the safe, noting faint scratches, recent, not from Lady Margaret's theft. The letters, in Sir Reginald's hand, detailed a decades-old scandal. E.A. Eleanor Ashford, my sister, betrayed by love, lost to the crypt's secret. The codex guards her shame. Poirot's mind raced. Eleanor Ashford, Dr. Carver's mother, tied to the codex. The vellum page hinted at a second map, leading deeper into the crypt, a chamber beneath the chapel sealed for generations. He questioned the household sharply. Dr. Carver, shaken, admitted, "My mother worked with Sir Reginald years ago. She vanished. Research, he said. I came to Lyon Hall to understand her fate." Her voice cracked, but her eyes held a flicker of calculation. Clara confessed, "I heard Uncle mention Eleanor, my aunt. He said the crypt held her legacy, but I thought it a story." Reed pressed, admitted to noticing the study's lock tampered days before, but assumed it was Mrs. Lyle's cleaning. Mrs. Lyle, flustered, said, "I saw Dr. Carver near the study last night, thought she was working." Poirot returned to the library, the codex in hand. Its map, when aligned with the vellum, revealed a hidden chamber beneath the chapel, accessible via a tunnel from the passage. He led the group to the chapel, a Gothic relic in the estate's grounds, its stained glass casting eerie shadows. The tunnel entrance, concealed behind an altar, yielded to Poirot's touch. Dust and damp enveloped them as they descended, lanterns flickering. The chamber was a crypt of ancient stone, its walls etched with Templar symbols. At its centre stood a sealed sarcophagus, inscribed Eleanor Ashford, 1895. Inside, no body, only a bundle of documents, a diary, and a small gold key. The diary, Eleanor's, revealed a tragic truth. She had discovered the Codex's map, sought the crypt's treasure, a Templar relic, not the chalice, and was betrayed by a lover, a rival scholar who sealed her in the crypt to die. Sir Reginald, her brother, hid the truth to protect the family name, crafting the manuscript's false map to deter treasure hunters. Poirot turned to Dr. Carver. "You knew, madame. Your mother's locket, your notes. You sought the crypt, not the chalice." She nodded, tears falling. "I wanted her truth, not wealth. I opened the safe last night, found the vellum. My mother deserved justice." The gold key, she admitted, unlocked the sarcophagus, placed there by Sir Reginald as penance. A red herring emerged. Reed's cufflink found earlier was a distraction, planted by the antiquarian to divert suspicion. Clara's suitcase held a sketch of the crypt, drawn from childhood stories, but she swore ignorance of the safe. Mrs. Lyle's sighting of Dr. Carver was true, but innocent. Carver's search was for closure, not crime. Poirot's deduction crystallized. The final truth is Eleanor's. Sir Reginald's murder was Lady Margaret's greed, but the Codex stirred Dr. Carver's quest. No new killer lurks, only a mother's memory. He handed the diary to Japp. "For the archives, mon ami, let Eleanor rest." Dr. Carver vowed to publish her mother's findings, honouring her. Clara, freed from family shadows, left for London. Reed and Mrs. Lyle resumed their duties, the estate at peace. As Poirot boarded his cab, the chapel's bells tolled. "The final veil lifts," he murmured, "and truth, at last, is free." Lyon Hall receded, its secrets silent at last. Chapter 10. The Last Light. The 7th day at Lyon Hall broke with a serene brilliance, the estate's ivy-clad walls glowing under a rare winter sun. The air was crisp, free of the oppressive mist that had cloaked the Georgian manor through its darkest hours. Hercule Poirot, his overcoat buttoned and his moustache a perfect arc of waxed precision, stood on the gravel drive, his departure imminent. The resolution of Sir Reginald's murder, the arrest of Lady Margaret Ashford and her accomplice Victor Langley, the recovery of the stolen ruby, and the discovery of the ancient codex and Eleanor Ashford's tragic diary had brought peace to the household. Yet, as Poirot's sharp eyes scanned the estate's tall windows, a final whisper stirred his grey cells, a sense that Lyon Hall held one last secret, not of crime, but of redemption. The household gathered in the grand hall for a final farewell, their faces softened by the weight of truth revealed. Dr. Evelyn Carver, her spectacles polished to a gleam, clutched the codex and Eleanor's diary, her resolve to publish their findings a tribute to her mother's lost legacy. Clara Henshaw, her suitcase now packed for a new life in London, stood with a quiet strength, her timidity replaced by determination. Thomas Reed, the butler, maintained his military poise, his eyes betraying a rare warmth as he nodded to Poirot. Mrs. Beatrice Lyle, the housekeeper, arranged a modest tea service, her once gossipy tongue stilled by respect for the detective's work. Inspector Japp, his overcoat slung over his shoulder, grinned ruefully. "Poirot, you've turned this place upside down and set it right. Scotland Yard owes you one." Poirot inclined his head, his voice warm yet tinged with curiosity. "Merci, mon ami. But the little grey cells, they are restless. Lyon Hall has given up its shadows, yet a final light remains, a question of the heart, not the crime." As he spoke, a soft thud echoed from the library, barely audible but sharp to Poirot's keen ears. The household exchanged glances, Mrs. Lyle clutching her apron. "Not another mystery," she murmured. Poirot, his instincts alight, led the way, his polished shoes clicking with purpose. In the library, the scene was serene yet charged. The manuscript rested in its case, the codex beside it, both under Dr. Carver's watchful care. But on Sir Reginald's desk, where blood had once stained the wood, lay a small velvet pouch. Its cord loosened to reveal a single pearl earring, its lustre catching the sunlight. The earring was old, its setting engraved with a delicate E.A., Eleanor Ashford's initials. Poirot's eyes gleamed. This was not here before, mes amis, a final message, perhaps, from Lyon Hall's past. He questioned the household, his tone gentle but probing. Dr. Carver, stunned, shook her head. "My mother's earring. She wore its pair in the locket's photograph. But how—" Clara, her voice steady, said, "Uncle kept relics of Aunt Eleanor. Perhaps he hid this too." Reed, ever stoic, admitted to cleaning the desk that morning but saw no pouch. Mrs. Lyle, flustered, said, "I dusted the shelves yesterday. Nothing there." Japp, scratching his head, muttered, "Poirot, you're chasing phantoms now. The case is done." Poirot examined the pouch, its velvet worn but intact, suggesting recent placement. The earring matched the locket from the crypt, a poignant link to Eleanor's tragedy. He turned to the bookshelves, his fingers tracing their edges. A faint click revealed a hidden slot, smaller than the passage's entrance, containing a single letter in Sir Reginald's hand, sealed with wax and addressed to "My sister's keeper." The letter read, "Eleanor, your truth is my burden. The earring, your last gift, rests where you loved. Forgive me for hiding it. The crypt's secret is yours alone." Poirot's grey cells hummed. This earring, this letter, they are Eleanor's final legacy, placed by one who knew her pain. He looked to Dr. Carver. "Madam, your mother's story drove you here. Did you place this pouch?" She shook her head, tears welling. "I found the crypt, her diary, but this, no, I swear it." Her sincerity rang true, her hands trembling as she touched the earring. Clara stepped forward, her voice soft but firm. "It was me, Monsieur Poirot. Last night, I found the pouch in Uncle's study, hidden in a book of poetry, his favourite, where he said Aunt Eleanor read to him as a child. He told me, years ago, to keep her memory alive if he couldn't. I placed it here, hoping it would close her story." Her eyes met Poirot's, no longer timid, but resolute. A red herring surfaced. Mrs. Lyle, eager to contribute, claimed she'd seen Reed near the library at dawn, fussing with the desk. Reed's jaw tightened. "I polished it, nothing more." Poirot examined Reed's polishing cloth, finding no velvet fibres, a false lead, Mrs. Lyle's nerves exaggerating again. Japp, sceptical, checked the study's books. The poetry volume bore Clara's fingerprints, corroborating her tale. Poirot's deduction crystallized. This is no crime, mes amis, but a gesture of love. Sir Reginald hid the earring, a relic of Eleanor's joy before her betrayal, to protect her memory. Clara, honouring his wish, brought it to light, not to deceive, but to heal. He handed the earring to Dr. Carver. "Your mother's legacy is complete, madame. Publish her truth and let her rest." Dr. Carver nodded, her voice choked. "I will. Her work, her story will live on." Clara, unburdened, smiled faintly. "Uncle would be glad." Reed bowed slightly, his respect clear. Mrs. Lyle, tearful, said, "It's right, sir. Lyon Hall's at peace now." Jap, chuckling, clapped Poirot's shoulder. "You find mysteries in teacups, Poirot, but I'll give you this one." As the household dispersed, Poirot lingered in the library, the sunlight streaming through the windows, illuminating the manuscript and codex. The earring, a final light, symbolized not treachery but redemption, a family's reconciliation with its past. He stepped outside, the gravel crunching underfoot, and boarded the waiting hansom cab. "Lyon Hall," he murmured, "you have spoken your last truth." As the cab rolled toward London, the estate receded, its towers gleaming, its shadows forever dispelled.